Thanksgiving, because we're talking about Thanksgiving and cottages and what we did for the weekend. I got to go up north and see all the leaves. Yeah, that's a thing. Mike, happy Thanksgiving, post-Thanksgiving weekend. How you doing, my friend?
Good, Gary. I'm doing really good. Yeah, no, it was awesome. I feel like this day is always to me, like, I just feel stuffed and I just feel like, oh my gosh, the day is taking forever to go on because you have such a long weekend full of food, essentially, right? I'm always grateful for it. But yeah, these days are always a tough one because you're just like struggling to get
Yeah.
going in the day.
Yeah. Okay. Here's what I want to know in the comments. Did you or did you not have turkey on the weekend? Let us know if you had turkey. Yes or no. I did not. We had no turkey.
Wow. What did you have?
I don't even know. Uh, what did we have? Geez, Saturday night. I can't even remember what we ate, but it was cottage food. So I don't know, hamburgers and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. See, that's okay. I actually prefer that. I'm not a turkey lover. I really am not. I like to do something like what you're doing there. That's way better for sure.
Yeah. So Mike Russo is not Jen Silbernagel. That we can all agree upon. We're honored to have guest host today with Mike with us as Jen is off enjoying her family from Ireland this week. And Mike, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. We got lots to go through. So we should probably roll the intro and kind of get into the show. What do you think?
Let's do it. I'm ready.
Beautiful. Okay, so lots to go through. The title is kind of funny. We came up with a title, and we're talking about RSP second mortgages. We're going to talk about sellers and buyers' expectations. And this last one, Mike, is a Ring doorbell, a fixture, or a chattel? Like, what the heck?
Yeah. What is it? I don't even know. Can I take it or can I leave it? I don't know.
I don't know. We're going to talk all about that kind of thing. And it's interesting. What? No turkey. Yeah, my mom, no turkey. That makes sense because I was with her on the weekend. Here we go. No turkey for my mom and dad. That makes sense as we were all together. We're going to talk about what chattels are, and we're going to talk about, things like security systems and hot water tanks and Ring doorbells and all sorts of stuff, and kind of the seller's expectations and buyer's expectations from that perspective. But we should probably roll into our first topic, Mike, and that's simply seller's expectations. So we'll do the little intro for that, and then we'll get to it.
Love it.
Okay, client's expectations. So, Mike, give us a little quick 30-second background of who Mike Russo is and the Russo team and why this question is going to be perfect for you because you're working with buyers and sellers right now. Yeah. So, who's Mike Russo for those that don't know?
Yeah. So I'm an agent here with KW. I've been an agent for 3 years now, going on my fourth full year. My third year was in August. So kind of working towards the fourth year now. Recently started a team on my own and pretty much have been buying and selling real estate for clients the past 3 years. Right. And typically I've been a very buyer heavy agent. Right. And that continues to be the case in 2021. However, as you know, 2021 has been a heavy seller's market. So it's been quite the challenge to actually help buyers secure properties. Just last week, we missed out on 3 deals because we were one of, in some cases up to 15 offers, right? So it's definitely a challenge when it comes to buying or selling a home in today's market. Obviously, when you're selling, it might be a little bit easier just because the expectation there, what we tell our clients when we do have sellers is, listen, we're gonna do our best job. We're gonna show off the property really well online, and we're gonna market. We're gonna market it on Facebook, on all of our different avenues. That way, we get the most amount of exposure, right? But we know naturally that in the seller's market, we're gonna get a lot of attention, and our job is to then, get, not to say the most amount of attention, but the right attention. And what I mean by that is, we want to bring in all the qualified buyers to actually fight for the property, and hopefully, win our guys or get our guys, our clients, lots of money over asking, right? Now that is a lot shorter. And Gary, I'm sure you've dealt with this too. Like that process sometimes takes like 10 days, right? Just to sell their home because of how hot the market is. But granted, the work that goes up to preparing for those 10 days is where it all, like, where we really shine, right? It's making sure that the home is presented, all the photos have been done properly and all that good stuff. And really that the homeowners are comfortable with having people into their home, during COVID, right? Because that's another big thing. So we got to make sure that the safety measures are taken and they know exactly what's going on. Is that something similar to what you're telling your clients as well for the sellers?
Yeah, from the seller's perspective, it's all about setting that expectation from, not only do we want to get as many people through as possible, we want to get as many qualified people through as possible. I think that's the big caveat here. And whether it's COVID or not COVID, that to me is always an important piece. We can talk about listing strategies or pricing strategies, but today, the topic is the seller or buyer's expectation, and having a clear plan on how you're going to sell and market the home together, I think is incredibly important, and coming to some of those conclusions together. And I'm curious on the buyer's side, when you're going up against 14 or 15 other offers,
what do you do, right?
Not only what do you do, but what are you doing? What are you telling, and what are you talking to? What are the talking points to your buyers? How are you setting them up for, not to say failure, because it's not failure. It's just that next step, right?
Yeah, it's the reality of it, right? So truthfully, what I tell my clients is, in every home we go see, I say, don't fall in love with it. Because the reality is there's a good chance you're actually not going to get it. And it's unfortunate, but it's true. And if you fell in love with it and then you didn't get it, your heart is broken. You don't want to buy another house again, right? Like, you're totally over it. But the reality of the market is this is a very much a possibility that you're not going to get the home. And so what we need to do is we need to sharpen essentially our offer as much as possible so that we actually do secure it when the time comes. And so what we do a lot, like I have an offer in right now for a client. Again, as of right now, we're one of 7. And pretty much what I've advised them is, I never advise against going firm, just because I always like to, if possible, I try to get a home inspection or financing just to have that. But in most cases, the clients understand that we do have to go firm in order to win a deal, right? So that's understandable. So the talking points that I usually mention are closing date, right? I try to work with the other side and see what closing date you guys have. Have you bought a home already? Do you need a short closing date? Do you need a long one? And we work that way, because sometimes that will make a difference, right? If you need a short one, sometimes there's not a lot of people out there that can accommodate a short closing date. So sometimes that can be the difference right there. The next thing, believe it or not, is deposit. So as stupid as it may sound, including a deposit check with the offer shows the seller that you're that much more serious, right? So if we actually had the certified check photocopied and we brought it to them, and they had it in there, or they had a copy of it, and I could tell them, listen, you accept our deal, that deposit check will be at your office in 1 hour. How does that show the seller how serious we are? How do they feel about that? So if it was $5,000 difference, they might actually take ours, because again, a very common thing that's been happening in our market is people don't show up with deposit checks, right? Yeah. So we try to work on that. It's a lot of people, I see it online all the time. People will write letters to explain to a homeowner who they are. Yeah, okay, that's great. You can definitely try that. I always try to include that as well. But the extra step, put a photo in there if you really wanted to, right? Show them who you are, because it's a letter, but like they don't really, they're just painting a picture in their mind. So actually give them the picture, and then they can then see you almost living in their home, right? It's something very minor, and again, it's maybe helped me once in my lifetime. But again, it's something that makes you stand out, right? And I think that's the main objective is how do you stand out when you're compared against 8 other offers or 7 other offers, whatever it is, right? Other than the purchase price, of course. So tightening up the conditions, if possible, to remove them, tightening up the closing date for sure. And then, adding extra value on top with a letter or something else to describe your clients, to show them that they're the right fit, right?
Yeah. And having that expectation level is, we used to say, we go way back when, Mike, we would say, we're going to go see 5 to maybe 10 properties at the most, and you're going to buy one of them. Whereas now you might do 5 to 10 offers until you get one of them. Right. It's funny how the market's going. And, you know, I did a market recap last week. That's on my YouTube channel, if you want to check that out, of the 416 versus the 905 and
Yeah, it was a
where the
great video
market's
actually.
going. Yeah, thanks. Say that again, Mike. I didn't hear that.
It was a great video.
Yeah, okay. But the reality is, I don't see any end in sight for the buyers.
No.
We are continuing to see a very strong buyer's market, and you're experiencing that right now with your buyers.
Yeah.
And it's just continuing to educate our buyers that, you know, yes, the right home for them is out there somewhere, but they're gonna have to work hard for it, right?
Yeah.
And then from the seller's perspective is aligning yourself with an organization, a realtor, whatever that might be, and being on the same page with them and understanding what it's a very stressful time, but it's also, when done with the right realtor, it can be a very enjoyful time, right? That's
Exactly it. Like, you know, you need to find someone that's a good fit. So one of the things that we also do, even though, you know, granted our market is very challenging, because most of the times we're going over asking, just like you mentioned with the whole, you know, lack of inventory, you know, a whole bunch of stuff going on. Sometimes what we do is, depending on the actual offer date. So for example, for the offer today, I actually had my client sign 2 offers, right? So one offer is kind of lower. The other offer is a bit higher, right? To try to save them that money. And judging on how many people went in on the offer date determines what offer we put forward. So now we're against 7. So we put our higher offer in first, right? But if there was only one other person, we know that our first offer is still very aggressive. So we might be able to put that, and I might be able to save my clients, you know, $10, $20, $30,000, as opposed to putting in the second offer going to their max, right? So it's like stuff like that might actually help your clients potentially save more money. And I know it sounds weird to say save money when you're going over asking, but it does actually help. It does kind of make the difference, right?
Well, it does a few things, Mike. To me, it sets you apart. It's showing the client that you do truly care for them at the end of the day. Yeah. You're looking out for their best interest, and it goes along the same thing as you know, what is a home inspection? What does that cover? What is that going to do for you? Is it a guarantee or a warranty? No, it's simply an inspection. Like, it's that type of conversation, right? We have to have these conversations every day with clients, so they understand the page, and so do we, because they'll have input, and it's maybe something that we miss that is really important to them. So if we're not continuing to communicate and talk to them, we're going to miss something that might be very small detail at the end of the day, but it's a huge detail to them.
Right. 100%. I totally agree with that. And to kind of touch on, I get that question a lot. What you said a little bit earlier with the whole, you know, do you see an end in sight for the buyers? You know, is the market going to crash kind of thing? I keep telling my clients the same thing, right? Right from the get-go. If you look, our housing crisis is a supply problem, essentially, right? We don't have enough supply, and the demand is way more than it ever should be. And then I like to show that, okay, yeah, so you have the government wants to build 1 million homes. That's great, but that's going to take probably 5 to 6 years possibly to happen, right? On top of that, not to say that anything against immigration, I'm so thankful that we're able to bring immigrants in, but we're also bringing in 400,000 people a year, right? Those people need homes. So we're going to build 1 million homes, but the next 3 years, we're going to bring in 1.2 million people. So we're still short 200,000 homes, right? So it's addressing that and saying, okay, so now without the government adding more homes or influencing the interest rates, how is it that our housing market is going to correct, right? It really isn't, unless we get that influx of supply, right? And so that's the issue, and that's what I try to advise my clients on, because I have some clients that are waiting on the fence, ready to buy. Okay, we're going to wait till the market crashes. Well, that was last year, right? Home prices have gone up. The average for what they were buying, it's gone up 150,000 since they've been waiting. So I've called them. Actually, I think I called them 2 weeks ago, and I said, how much longer do you want to wait? Can you afford to wait any longer? Because I don't think you can. Yeah. Right. There's going to be a point where you're not going to be able to get into the market again. Right. And that's not good.
Yeah. You're nailing it. And there's other things that come into play here, and not to say we need to be, you know, economists or things like that, but there's things that are happening to the GDP and everything else. And the government is going to keep continuing, in my opinion, to keep interest rates low.
As low as possible.
but that's going to fuel, that means you have more buying power, right? So
Exactly, which
anyways,
increases the demand.
that's a whole other
Yeah,
conversation. Maybe that's
a
next
whole
week's.
nother, that's a whole nother session. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all good. So clients' expectations, it's important to continue. I think like the best way to set expectations for both, if you're a client or a realtor, is communicating, right? You got to keep talking to each other and keep understanding each other. And you know, you can either be on the market or you be in the market. We much rather to be in the market than on the market, as it were, right?
For sure.
Good stuff. Okay, good stuff. Let's move on. And we're going to talk about something that I love, and that's investing.
Yeah.
So RSP second mortgages, and this came up, Mike and I were talking earlier, and I said, Mike, did you know one of my most watched, not by count, but just recently most watched videos, YouTube videos, is one I did 3 or 4 years ago. And I recorded myself at a workshop talking about RSP second mortgages.
Wow.
And
incredible.
For whatever reason, I don't know if people, people have a lot of equity at this moment, right?
Yeah.
Or people are looking at their real estate or their portfolio, investment portfolio, retirement portfolio, and asking for more. Or they're asking for something stable, because the last 24 months, 36 months, the investment market or stock market's kind of been all over the place, right?
Right, for sure.
And when you can look at different investment vehicles, and for a lot of people, they want to take a portion of their investment portfolio and lock it in and know they're going to get a fixed return for X amount of time. And that's where RSP second mortgages is just an outstanding opportunity for some people.
Yeah. So actually, to dive right into that, Gary, what exactly is that? Right. So if I was somebody new, or if I didn't know what this is, how would you describe it best to them?
It's exactly, that's a great way to put it. How do you just describe it to them? Is you, as an investor into RSPs, or if you have investment funds, you can use those investment funds to loan or to lend to somebody to buy a house, or to take secondary financing on, and you're going to get a fixed return for 12 to 24 months or longer. And a lot of people love that because they love the fixed return. They love being able to loan it against a property that has lots of equity, that's in a great area. And for RSP second mortgages, it is, you know, for people to understand the value of real estate, it's a great opportunity to keep investing in real estate when they don't have the means elsewhere, right?
Yeah. And now, can you do that through any bank? Like essentially, if I wanted to start this up, who do I call to do this? Or is it a special bank that you have to go through?
Yeah, really, it's a special bank that excuse me. There's a company out of Alberta called Olympia Trust. There are some banks that have done it in the past. TD did it, but they've actually shut that part of it down. Olympia Trust is the best in Canada. That's where most people go to use RSP, to loan out RSP second. So for instance, if I owned a property, an investment, it could be any type of property, but if I owned a property and I was looking to get some equity out of it, and refinancing the property with a first mortgage wasn't an option for me, I might say to, you know, other fellow investors or my mortgage broker, I'm looking for a second mortgage. And that second mortgage can be provided to me as the investor in any which way possible. Mike comes along and says, well, I've got $100,000 in my RSP at the moment, all of which is in the stock market. But if I took, and Gary as the investor, I'm looking for maybe $40,000. Mike's okay loaning out $40,000 to me at 10%. Right. And
oh, yes, I am.
yes, I am. So let's set that up. As soon as we get off the call, Mike, let's set up. So, and that RSP, that $40,000, I don't send Mike checks. That's not the way it works. I send Olympia Trust checks for my interest payments. They take care of everything. And Mike's smart. He's a smart, savvy real estate investor. So he's going to make all the payments, right? And take on all the costs. So whatever the cost that it is to Olympia Trust, a few $100s a year, I'm going to pay for it. Any legal fees or lawyer's fees to set it up, I'm going to pay for? Because Mike's smart. He's a savvy real estate investor, right? So there's all
Right.
different ways. I mean, we can dive deep into what that looks like. And there's all these great ways that investors are always looking for money. Thanks for that great comment,
Yeah.
Danielle. And for RSP investing, it's an amazing way to take some RSP funds, get a guaranteed return. The length of the time, or the term that we call it, or the length of time that Mike's going to loan that money to me, can be anything that you create.
Wow.
It's typically best done at 12 months or 24 months, and perhaps it's done every 12 months, and it can renew. As long as my payments are in good standing order, I can renew that.
Yeah. And you can continue to do that forever, essentially, right? You can always consistently use your RRSP money to do second mortgages.
Absolutely. So what happens is, I want to make something pretty clear here. If your RSP funds, let's just use that $100,000 or the $40,000, right?
Right.
It's already invested into an RSP fund somewhere.
Yeah.
And let's just use TD, for instance,
Yeah.
TD Canada. Mike is not withdrawing that money from TD and giving it to Olympia Trust, because that's going to incur income tax penalties.
Yeah, taxes. Yeah.
What Olympia Trust is going to do, they're going to make a request to TD for that $40,000, and TD is going to transfer that $40,000 and keep it what we call registered.
Right.
So it always stays as registered funds.
I'm never paying taxes on that.
And you're not paying taxes on that until one day down the road when you do withdraw, 20, 30 years down the road type thing, right?
When I retire. Yeah.
But it is a fantastic way to invest in real estate if you're, you don't have all the means, or you're looking for another vehicle to invest into. It's a great way to do it. People are looking for all sorts of different types of seconds. We can talk about the loan to value too. So I have colleagues that borrow, I have colleagues that lend money out, and loan to value is simply whatever the value of your home is, what mortgages do you have against that value? So if we'll use, we're in the GTA, so $1 million is $1 million. That's pretty easy. And if you have a first mortgage of $600,000, that means that loan to value is 600 divided by 1 million, which we all know is 60%, right? And you might, if that's me, I might say I'm looking for 10% of that equity, right? So I'm looking for $60,000 in this case, right? And Mike has that $60,000 available. So now that loan to value goes from 60% up to 70%. So if anything goes sideways, as the borrower, Mike knows there's still 30% of equity there, right?
Yeah.
And it, like I said, it's a really unique way to invest into real estate. It's a really unique way to invest your RSP funds to get a fixed return. And that percentage that Mike is going to charge me, it could be anything. It really can be.
Right. Yeah, because you would agree to it. Yeah, exactly. So if you were more risky, I might charge upwards of maybe 15%. Or if you were not so risky and you really just, were kind of shopping the rates, maybe I charge you 8%, something like that, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly it. That is exactly it. The higher the loan to value, it is another way to think about it. The higher the loan to value, the higher the interest rate Mike's going to charge me.
Yeah.
So if I was already
now that we know how to do that, right? So now we work with Olympia Trust. We got the money. How do we know what to mortgage? How does that work? Do we talk to a mortgage broker to find private deals? How do we go about finding people that need a second mortgage?
That's a great question. Talk to your mortgage broker, get into different circles for investors. Investors are always looking for ways to get at that equity. Talk to realtors, talk. Right? That's a great question, but definitely start with realtors and mortgage brokers and
they set up a criteria of what it is. They might have a couple of criteria sitting on the shelf that you could probably copy from other successful people, or maybe you have your own criteria, and they'll kind of start looking for that. And as people approach them, they can then call you and say, hey, Gary, I got an opportunity for 50,000. Are you interested? Kind of thing.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. See, people got to know, mortgage brokers, even realtors, other investors, they got to know that you're looking to invest that money. And
Yeah.
if you're serious about it, contact Mike or myself, and we'll get you connected with the right people. But if you're serious about it, look up Olympia Trust, move that money today, and it can just sit there waiting for the right opportunity, because it does take a little while to transfer funds out of your current RSP into Olympia Trust account. But Olympia Trust takes care of all the accounting, they take care of all the paperwork, they take
Wow.
care of receiving all the money, and notifying you when payments are made and when payments are not made. It's a fantastic resource.
Yeah. Wow. That's really interesting, actually. And it's definitely one of those like avenues of investing that I think a lot of people skip out on, just because it seems like there's only two kinds of ways to invest your money: real estate or stocks. That's what it seems like, right? But really, truly, there's not. There's hundreds of ways you can invest your money for sure. And that's just this is another great tool that you can use.
Yeah, it really is. And it kind of balances your portfolio out a little bit too.
Yeah.
Obviously I'm very real estate heavy,
Yep.
but this is a way to invest in real estate and get a fixed return, right?
Mm.
And for some people, that's what they're looking for, right?
Yeah.
Or that
Security.
segment of their investment portfolio, they're looking for that fixed return. So
Yeah.
there's a good opportunity for people.
Absolutely.
There you go. There you go. Good stuff. All right, moving on. Okay, I like this next one. Let's move on, Mike.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Chattels versus fixtures. Okay. So I threw
So,
the
so yeah, tell the story, and then we'll kind of dive in, because this story is like, well, it's interesting for sure.
so I saw in one of our local Facebook groups, is a Ring doorbell a chattel or a fixture? And that was kind of the question, because to cut a long story short, seller sold his house, closed, and the buyer closed on it. Seller had a Ring doorbell, and when the buyer showed up, it wasn't there.
Gone. They
Gone.
took it with them.
So that begs the question, is a Ring doorbell a chattel or a fixture? And if you're confused of what chattel and fixtures are,
Yeah.
Mike, do you want to take on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, a fixture, as it states, is essentially fixed to your property, right? So there's a lot of things that are attached to your property. For example, what would be a good one? Let me think. A chandelier, even outside your house, the lighting outside your property, camera systems. Those are physically attached to your property. Whereas a chattel isn't necessarily attached to your property. It's kind of, I guess, the best way to think about it. This is what I learned in school: is if you were to flip your home upside down and shake it, everything that falls can technically go with you, right? But if it's stuck, it's got to stay with the home, right? So really everything else, unless otherwise stated in the agreement, goes with the homeowners. But if I shook my house upside down and that Ring doorbell was attached to my door still, then that's got to stay. And really truly it is attached to your house. So I would argue that it is a fixture for sure.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue against you, because that would make me look like a fool. But in
I
this
should
case,
I should probably specify. Sorry, chattel's a great example of a chattel is like an oven or a microwave that's not built in, right? So stuff like that, stuff that you can move, washer and dryer, vacuum system, stuff like that. That's kind of free and you can move it technically, right?
yeah, well said. And you said something important too here, or as otherwise stated in the purchase and sale agreement.
Yeah,
So if maybe that Ring doorbell, that seller really wanted that Ring doorbell because his long lost uncle gave it to him, who he hadn't seen in 55
right.
years, and it meant, had sentimental value to it.
Yeah,
That's where the conversation, we talked about this earlier, Mike, when we're getting ready for the call here, there's an element, or there's an onus on the listing agent here as well.
absolutely.
And it's not just cut and dry, black and white. In some cases we have fun, and yes, it is. But in this case, we both really feel like the listing agent had this on his or their shoulders as well, because again, back to our earlier conversation, setting that expectation. And
Yes.
Mike, like if I'm the seller in this case, I really wanted that Ring doorbell, what would you have done otherwise?
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. Like, I mean, if we sold the home and it's gone. That you took the doorbell, and the buyer is saying, well, I wanted that doorbell. Well, I'm kind of on the hook for that doorbell, and I'm not going to go back to my seller and say, hey, listen, you got to bring that doorbell back. I'm probably just going to go to Home Depot and buy one and bring it over to the buyer and just say, sorry for the confusion. Here's a new doorbell,
Yeah.
because that's kind of awkward. But to avoid that situation, I always do this in all of our listing presentations. Once we've kind of gone through all the paperwork and everything, is we actually have a section, just in an agreement that says fixtures included and chattels included. Sorry, fixtures excluded, excuse me. And essentially it's saying, what is it that's a part of your home that you want to take with you, right? And we're going to write it all down, and it's going to be right on the paperwork of that home. So any offer that comes in, if it's not included in the section that says fixtures excluded or chattels included, then it's fair game, right?
Yeah, exactly. And another way to look at that too is, let's say it's an heirloom chandelier or something like that.
Yeah.
That typically would stay with the home because, as Mike explained earlier, it's a fixture. It's fixed to your house. And when we write up purchase and sale agreements or the listing description, we typically say all electrical light fixtures, for instance, are included. Yeah. However, if you've got a chandelier that just means something near and dear to you, I always say out of sight, out of mind. I'll hire my electrician, or somebody will come over, they'll remove it, and we'll put up a new one from Home Depot.
Right.
Right. Like, let's just not give somebody the idea
opportunity to take. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's 100. So I actually had that exact situation happen to me. My clients had a Mickey Mouse chandelier. So it was like, I don't know, had all these Mickey Mouse designs on it. It was part of a Disney room. It was really, really neat.
Yeah, because I thought you meant like a really cheap chandelier, but you actually did a Mickey Mouse chandelier.
Cool. It was really nice. Like, it was really neat. But again, very unique. And there would be a very small amount of buyers that would want that. However, my sellers were very, very big Disney fans. And so the entire room was all Disney. So they were taking the entire room, but they wanted the chandelier. And so a part of the deal was actually fixtures excluded, Mickey Mouse chandelier in basement bedroom. And it came. We took it down because we left it the way it was because it kind of completed the room, right? And so it was in the photos, it was in the if people walk through the home. But when it came time to it, it was actually excluded from the deal. And we replaced it with, a simple Home Depot one or whatever it is. They got something else that they put there, right? And the buyers were very happy.
No,
but it's important. It is definitely on the listing agent for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And thanks, Jenna. You're absolutely right. Set the expectations on the front end, avoid confusion on the back end. Like, it is so important to have these conversations, as Mike explained, after the listing paperwork is signed and so forth. What stays, what goes.
Yeah. And it's similar to not only just the Ring doorbell, but even those fancy thermostats, right? The Nest thermostats. Those things are like $400, $500. So for a seller, they might think that, I'm taking that thing with me and I'll replace it with a Home Depot one or something cheap. But really, the home was bought with that, unless it states otherwise, and that one's got to stay, right? And so, if you out of sight, out of mind, kind of going back to what you were saying, if they really want that, take it out, replace it with a cheap doorbell, replace it with a cheap thermostat, and just tuck it away until it is, until you move, right? Yeah. Because otherwise it's going with the home unless stated in the agreement.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing smart, we'll call them smart homes or smart devices, more and more and more in homes these days, because especially as they become more popular, and just think, we're coming up to, I'll call it American Thanksgiving, which is a big sale on everything electronics wise, right?
That's right.
And then we're going to have Boxing Day in a couple of months, which is everything on sale.
Another big sale.
Yeah. Yeah. So, come January, February, a good portion of the homes on the market are going to have some smart devices within it, right? And as realtors, we got to be clear on what stays and what goes.
Yeah. 100%. Because again, I've seen smart fans, I've seen smart TVs, smart fridges. Have you ever seen the fridge that goes completely, like, it shows you exactly what's in it through the touch screen? It's got a camera on the inside of it, and it shows you that way you don't have to open your fridge up every time. It looks like a mess because your fingerprints are all over it, but it helps you for sure.
Nice. Well, I'm just thinking here, like, over the last few months, I've been replacing a lot of our simple, like, light switches with smart switches.
Yeah. Oh, right? Yeah, true.
And
they're not cheap.
They're not cheap. And to one person that might be a chattel, to the next person that might be a fixture, because I want to take that to my next house. But that's a part that's wired into your house.
That's physically attached to your property. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you seeing that, Mike, as we kind of get off into a slightly different topic here, but are you seeing some of the homes as homes get updated with
Yeah.
all the smart technology behind them?
Yeah, for 100%. I think the biggest one is actually what you said, the smart switches, right? That seems to be the number one thing that people are flipping over to, so they can connect it to their phones and they can turn off any bed, hey, Alexa, turn off my lights and this and that, and everything kind of goes from there, right? So I think that's a big part of it. One of the biggest ones, even still to today, I struggle with this one, but TVs that are mounted to a wall, right? Because technically, the mount is what's attached to the home, right? But the TV is just kind of placed onto the mount. So it's one of those arguments of, does it come or does it go, right? And I've heard some people say it's got to stay. I've heard some people say the mount has to stay alone and the TV can go. What I always do when I come up with one of these things, because I am always like, it's so black and white, I just put, if I'm buying a home, okay, it's a bar TV. Bar TV is included with mount, right? And I just put it in the deal. Boom, it's clear, it's there, you can't argue it, right? Versus me not putting it in and my buyers show up and it's gone and they're like, well, what the heck? There's just a TV mount here. I got to go out and buy a TV now, right? That's frustrating for sure. So it's always one of those things. There's so many things like that you don't know. Should I take it? Should I leave it? What do I do with it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think from a listing perspective, I'm going to, if obviously walk around the house with the seller. Do you want that TV? Because right now it's staying, and just trigger that in their mind, and it just exclude all of those television sets along with the mount and everything like that. Or as you said, the mount is going to stay, and there's a whole wide gamut here. But at the end of the day, as Mike said, there are some exceptions. But if you flip that house upside down and things fall out, they go.
Yeah. And you know what? It's so, and just because of the world that we live in, people are everything has to be in writing, right? You have to have it. There's a good saying, I used to love it. And it was, I only trust two people in the world. It's you and me. And I'm not too sure about you, right? That's the saying. And so
Nice.
it's just one of those things that you just got to, put it on paper, have your sellers understand what's a part of their home, what's not a part of their home, and make sure that that's clear on when you're getting offers on it. And same with buyers, right? Like I was telling you a situation where one of our sellers, they had a hot water tank that was a rental, right? And the buyer agent reached out to us. They sent us an agreement, and it had nowhere in the agreement under the rental section did it say hot water tank. So we just had assumed, okay, it was on the listing. It says hot water tank. They most likely they understand, and so we let it be. They moved into the home. They found out it was a rental, and they went, "What the heck? We don't want a rental. We wanted this to be purchased." Well, we said you didn't put it in the deal, so it's kind of on you not to include that, because we clearly stated it was a rental and you didn't put it on the paperwork. So it's up to your buyer agent to be diligent enough to know, okay, that was a rental. Is the furnace and air conditioner rentals, or are they owned, right? These are all things that could cost you a lot of money in the future, for sure.
Yeah. And I believe in our Schedule B, we have something that covers that as well. So check that out. Check that out for sure. Thanks, Svetlana. Yeah, I like that analogy too. Shake the house.
Shake the house. Yeah, flip it upside down. What falls?
Yeah, exactly. Good stuff. Well, we got lots going on at the brokers this month, Mike. I should have our training calendar up here, but I don't have it. I know in the next couple of weeks, there's the business planning clinic, nice. Which is over 2 days, two afternoons, and it is phenomenal. And I know the people that have already taken it in the past, those are the people that will take it again. So if you've never taken it, go and take it. And
who's hosting it?
Who's hosting it? His name is skipping my mind all of a sudden. I'm gonna figure it out, because
yeah,
he's
no worries.
one of my those favorite trainers, and his name escapes me at the moment, which is terrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Yeah, no,
terrible.
that's I always love the business planning clinics. They're always it just gives you that extra boost of confidence going into the new year, with understanding where you have to be in your business, right? And how important it is to know that. So I'll definitely be taking that, because that's always a great class for sure.
Yeah. Right on cue. Gene Rivers.
I was going to say, is it Gene Rivers? I almost was going to guess that, but
yeah, he is phenomenal. Okay. He owns a number of brokerages in Florida, the state of Florida. He's been up to Canada many, many times to teach.
Beautiful.
And so he's teaching that over Wednesday, the 20th, and Thursday, the 21st. So make sure you take part in that. we've got a handful of our KWRC new value propositions. So our lead accelerator, some training around that. So again, that's where the brokerage is paying for $25 every month for you to generate leads within Command, Facebook leads, which is pretty awesome.
Killer deal.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So lots of great stuff coming up. And at the beginning of November, I don't have the date here in front of me. I should do. We are having our first KWRC wealth mastery session as well. So the lead coach, KW coach for Canada, is coming to share with us on why creating wealth is a mindset, and it's important to do that for you and your family and for others. And I can tell you, he's going to be really, really great, because we all have our own perception of generating wealth. Sometimes it's negative because perhaps we've had a bad experience in our past, or we were taught about something about generating wealth and it has a negative impact, or maybe it's positive. So what that session is going to be about is kind of breaking down all those barriers.
Yeah.
And starting from scratch again on why it's important to do it, and why it's important to do it for you and your family and others. And that's going to be awesome.
I think the others is a big part of that, to be able to give back and to be able to help others. I think it's definitely a part that really changed changed my outlook on building wealth for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can tell you, Colin and I we're speaking with a few other, special guest speakers, and we are pumped and excited. New home construction, creating joint venture partnerships, so buying properties together, and of course KWRC acquisitions is coming together, so where we realtors within our brokers are going to be able to purchase properties together. And so all of that is coming together, and we're having a lot of good talks around that. And we're getting closer to announcing what that first phase looks like, which is good.
That's awesome. That's super exciting. I'm so excited to see where the brokerage is going to run with that.
Yeah. Very good. So that wraps up another week of KWRC TV. For the vacationing Jen Silbernagel, that's Mike Russo. I'm Gary McGowan. Of course, you can catch us on all your favorite podcast players of choice. And we'll see everybody on the next show. Bye for now.
See you guys.